Despite missing every three-point attempt for the first time since January 13, 2022, Caitlin Clark refused to let an off night derail her team's destiny. Walking onto the court in State Farm Arena, she knew the eyes of the league were on her and the Indiana Fever. When her jumper rattled out on the opening possession, a familiar knot tightened in the pit of every fan's stomach. What if the star simply couldn't score? But as the clock ticked, something remarkable happened. The Fever rallied around Clark's misfire, transforming frustration into fuel. Each time she passed up a contested long ball, Natasha Howard answered, draining her own mid-range pull-up or muscling through contact for an acrobatic finish. Instead of folding under the weight of expectation, Indiana leaned into its depth, unleashing a relentless bench surge that overwhelmed the Dream. By tip-off's end, the scoreboard read 81-76 in favor of the visitors, and everyone watching realized this wasn't a fluke. It was the first seismic tremor of a true championship contender's quake. Just 2 days earlier, the same group had stumbled out of Gainbridge Fieldhouse, stunned by a 91-90 home loss. That defeat was more than a one-point margin. It was a microscope on every flaw. Atlanta dominated the glass, out-muscling the Fever for 41 rebounds to 37 and turning physicality into points. Brittney Griner bullied her way to 21 points, and Ryan Howard ripped apart help defense with mid-range pull-ups, leaving Indiana gasping for answers. At the free throw line, the Dream knocked down 25 of 32 attempts, while Indiana's 16 of 26 haunted the final seconds. Felt like the season's trajectory was slipping through their fingers. But in that locker room, after the buzzer, Coach Stephanie White refused to wallow. "I don't feel like we match up well," she said with a calm urgency, "but we're going to learn, adjust, and come back stronger." Those words didn't just echo off walls, they set in motion a 48-hour transformation. Less than 2 days later, Indiana returned to Atlanta battle-tested. The film room was stacked with cut-ups of every breakdown, rotations that lagged, close-outs that drifted, rotations that didn't rotate. White and her staff extracted patterns of weakness and devised a blueprint built on chaos. Swarm on Griner, rotate unpredictably, and punish mismatches in transition. On the court, the Fever attacked from the first whistle. They contested every shot, sending 2 defenders at the block and a third from nowhere. Griner scored just 5 points before fouling out, her rhythm shattered by Indiana's menacing traps. Across the arc, Clark's passes carved seams, finding Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull for backdoor layups and catch-and-shoot triples. The adjustments weren't textbook, they were instinctive, born of urgency and collective belief. By halftime, the Fever led by double figures, the same team that lost its poise at home now churning out chaos on the road. When Natasha Howard exploded for 26 points on 12 of 17 shooting, it wasn't just redemption, it was a declaration. After quiet outings and whispers of inconsistency, Howard's performance transcended mere scoring. She picked up loose balls, anchored transition defense, and attacked closeouts like a predator sensing weakness. In the third quarter alone, she poured in 13 points, each bucket punctuating the narrative that Indiana's identity would never again hinge on a single star. Her ascension forced Atlanta to tweak its defensive game plan on the fly, shifting defenders from Clark's perimeter to shadow Howard's drives. That left Clark more room to initiate offense and opened lanes for Aaliyah Boston to roam. The ripple effect was undeniable. One player's resurgence became the catalyst for a full team uprising. Behind that surge stood 2 bench lifters turned secret weapons. Sophie Cunningham, making her first appearance since an ankle injury, looked as if she'd never left. Her first three-pointer of the season ignited an 11-0 run, and her seamless movement off screens gave Indiana's attack a new dimension. In just 20 minutes, she tallied 9 points and 6 rebounds, drawing contact and landing free throws as if auditioning for the role of closer. Lexi Hull complemented her perfectly. 10 points, 4 assists, and checks on ball handlers that disrupted Atlanta's rhythm. Together, they flipped the depth chart, turning a potential weakness into a relentless force. When opponents expected fatigue from Indiana's rotation, they found a fresh wave of energy, forcing mistakes and swinging the momentum decisively in Indiana's favor. Chaos theory met high-stakes strategy when Indiana executed its all-in defense on Griner. Rather than simply sagging off, the the Fever sent help from unexpected angles, a forward sneaking from the weak side, a guard dropping off to trap, even the point guard dropping below the level of the free throw line. It looked like madness, but it worked. Griner's towering frame was neutralized by sheer mayhem. She finished with just 5 points and 7 rebounds before fouling out, her domination from 2 days earlier erased. Meanwhile, Indiana flipped the rebound margin in its favor and held Atlanta to 36% shooting from the field. It was a masterclass in collective aggression. Every player committed to disrupting the Dream's identity, and every time the referees let a hard foul slide, Indiana's intensity only rose. Amid the physicality came an emotional flashpoint that defined the evening. Late in the third quarter, Ryan Howard, a veteran known for testing younger stars, crashed into Clark on a drive, unleashing a volley of taunts. Clark stood her ground, shoulder checking back, eyes locked on her opponent. The cameras caught her words. "I'm not scared of you," she declared, voice calm but steel-edged. The arena erupted. That moment, more than any three-pointer or bullet pass, crystallized the Fever's mindset. It was the young star signaling to her teammates and the entire league that Indiana would never cower. From that instant, the Fever's defense sharpened, their cutting attacked, and their bench roared. Opponents might have size, but Indiana had heart. The final minutes felt inevitable. With Griner gone and Clark's night salvaged through leadership rather than scoring, the Fever sealed the deal. 4 different players finished in double figures, a testament to the roster's breadth. The final horn sounded on an 81-76 victory that felt bigger than 2 points or 1 game. It announced Indiana as a contender, one that could win ugly, win with depth, and win even when its superstar wasn't lighting up the scoreboard. As the team celebrated, Clark raised her hands not in proclamation of personal glory, but in gratitude to the bench, the coaching staff, and a locker room unified by adversity. This isn't just a revenge win, it's the blueprint for a championship run. Shows that in a league of stars, the Fever have built something rarer, a collective identity anchored in toughness and versatility. They can adjust on the fly, plug any hole, and elevate role players to difference makers. If this road victory taught us anything, it's that Indiana doesn't need a perfect night from its marquee names to prevail. They've discovered the power of unity, and in doing so, they've become a team no one wants to face in May or June. So if you're still underestimating the Fever, remember one thing: they're not just chasing wins, they're chasing legacy. And with performances like this, they're already carving theirs in stone. Because when the lights get brighter and the games get tighter, it's not always the flashiest team that survives. It's the one that refuses to break. Indiana isn't just relying on highlights, they're leaning on chemistry, discipline, and a hunger that can't be taught. From the grit of the bench to the leadership on the court, every player is locked in. The league may have crowned its favorites early, but Indiana